morning, everyone. This is Blake Rivers, the sales team manager here at Surefire Local. I want to start by thanking all of you for taking some time to join us today. We'd also like to welcome our current customers. You're always going to have your dedicated digital marketing coach to reach out to afterwards if you have any questions. But we hope for both existing customers and for some people just learning about us, we hope you're going to find this a valuable use of your time today. Surefire Local is a technology-enabled services company, and today our very own Bob Sheehan is going to walk you all through some of the really amazing technology that helps you constantly increase the results from your investments in digital services like pay-per-click, organic search, and reputation management. And with Surefire, you're going to learn how you can manage your entire online footprint from one platform. So as we go forward, Bob and I will be here to answer your questions throughout the presentation, and again at the end we're going to do a Q&A session. So please don't hesitate to ask questions as they relate to Surefire Local, our services and technology, or if you have any questions about digital marketing in general. You can communicate any questions with us using the question box in your webinar control panel on the right side of your screen. And I found, to make sure everyone knows where it is, it's a good idea if you all could go ahead and find that box and just type in where you're joining us from today. We'd love to hear where you're from. And before we begin, we'd also like to ask that everyone please silence all your devices and pay attention, because we're going to have a special prize today at the end. At the end of the webinar, I'll be asking everyone a question about the Surefire Local Marketing Cloud, and the first person to answer this question correctly will win a free Google Home Mini and their first month of Surefire services for free. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Bob. He is our SVP of Customer Advocacy, and he'll be walking you through what everyone is here to see, the Surefire Local Marketing Cloud. So Bob, take it away.
Thanks very much, Blake. I appreciate the introduction, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. For those of you who don't know me, I go back to the beginning at Surefire here. Worked with Chris back in like 2009. Helped put the company together at that point, and then we've been growing ever since. The idea behind what we did and how we put this together was around what we call structured data, right? And the thing that I'm going to show you today, the Marketing Cloud, is a continuation of that process. That idea has never changed for us. It's always been about the idea that there were, for a small business, if you wanted to succeed on the internet, there were a handful of things. It's not a ton of things, but some very focused and basic things that need to be done. And if you do those well, and if you do those the right way, that the coordination of all of those things together could help you to succeed on the internet, and in fact get traction that would help you compete with people much larger than you. So that was the thinking back in 2009, 2010 when we began this, and here we are in 2018, and it really hasn't changed. The tactics have changed a little bit, the approach, how Google kind of looks at things and how they organize their search engine results page, for instance, and how they view your website and your digital footprint. Some of that has changed, but the concept of structuring data across a number of different places and organizing it in a way that allows you to see the relationships between all those places, and that allows you to activate campaigns and to do things that will impact your entire presence. That has not changed. And so what we did a number of years ago is we began building this into what we call the Marketing Cloud. And the reason we did that is to make it manageable. We had a number of what we called coaches at the time. We now call them digital marketing strategists. And they were working on many clients. And what we found out is that they had to be signed in. They had to be in a lot of different places, looking at a lot of different things. And so you might have 15 different windows open, looking at the different elements of a program, and you'd have 15 different date ranges, and you'd have all of these things that really were disconnected from each other, that you couldn't really understand. If I have something happening here, how does that impact something else that's happening over here? And so that was the idea behind building it into one place where one of our people could literally help to manage these campaigns with their clients and help them to see the relationships between everything. And so we built that out, and we found that by doing that, they were able to, do a better job with managing people's businesses, helping people to grow their internet presence. And so after building that for a couple of years and working with people internally on, what did we need to run these things, we decided to open it up to the clients and let them participate with us on the cloud, right? And that would give clients, more ownership in what we were doing. They would be able to kind of help us and see what we're doing, right? It's very transparent. You can see exactly what's going on in here. And because of that, we found that we had more engaged clients and customers that understood what we were doing and were able to kind of help us in a more meaningful way. So that's the thing that I'm going to take you through today, is to show you how it's organized and why, and then the relationships between all the things. And then if you have any questions or anything you want to comment on, just put it in the chat window, and Stephen will call it out, and we can talk about it. And so I'll just kind of get going here and take you through. We start actually at the bottom in a thing called connections, because I think this is a place where you can really understand what we're trying to do. That we bring in all of the data sources, the Google Analytics, Webmaster Tools, AdWords, right? Telephone calls, directory listings. We bring all of that into the cloud here. And this is a place where we make all those connections. So you can see we also bring social media down at the bottom. And depending on the company that we're talking about and the particular business that people are in, some people have more or less social going on. Some people don't have LinkedIn, or in some cases it's not relevant to what we're trying to do, so we don't connect it. But for the most part, we try to connect as much of this up as possible so that we can do things like publish to websites, right? You can see WordPress over here on the right, where I can publish content to my website through this, and on one single password. I don't have to go signing into WordPress and try to figure out that dashboard. I simply do it here. Or if I want to find out how the publishing that I did to a website over the last 3 or 4 months, how that relates to the traffic that I'm seeing on Google Analytics, I've got a Google Analytics connection here that I can look at, or Webmaster Tools, and it's all in one place. So I can very easily bring in all the data that I need. And this is, we built this in a way that in some cases customers can do this themselves. So we try to make it simple and not confusing, because some of this stuff can get pretty geeky for you, if you don't work in it every day. So that's the idea behind how we get the data into this thing. And between the ones that are here, which are user serviceable data, and then there are some that are not here, because they come with the cloud, but we have to connect them. There's a total of in the high 30s. I think the number is 38 different data sources that come in here. And because we bring them in and we structure this data so that it's all very similar, and that it's all done across the same date range, and we can look at it all together, we really get some ability to make some good decisions here, and to take action that will help us to understand what's going on. So when you sign into the cloud, we built a dashboard, and the idea behind the dashboard is, if you're a business owner and you want to just kind of see what's going on, we wanted to give people this high level view of how things are going. So key website stats, for instance, you get, how many leads do I have in the last, whatever the date range is. In this case, it's 3 months, right? So I know exactly how many leads I've got. I know how many visits, how I'm trending for visits and page views, right? I can look at where the traffic is coming from. In this case, I think this is a good example of a date range that really helps us to understand what's going on. And you see that, in December, in this business, this is a home improvement company. In December, the business is fairly slow. That's the sales cycle, right? Things are fairly slow, and it gets a little more busy in January. And then you can see, the organic traffic rising in January and then rising a little further in February. We continue to come out of that kind of seasonality. And the same thing with direct traffic. You can see that rises over time as well. And if I want to look at any of this in isolation, if I just want to look at organic, or if I just want to look at social, I can do that and kind of bring in these things together so that I can understand how the trend is for the different components of traffic that I'm trying to build, right? And then, if I'm a business owner, I want to look at something like this and see, how are people finding me? What kind of services do people look for that bring them to me? And if I'm the owner of a business and I see things in here that match what I'm really trying to accomplish, that's a good thing. That helps me to understand, whether I've targeted my website properly, whether I've got the right kind of content on it. And if I see things in here that really don't match with what I'm trying to get accomplished, which, maybe they're the wrong specific kinds of things, or the products are different or whatever, then I know that I can go in here and make changes to my website that will better target those customers to what they're looking for. And then we have a couple of kind of high level views here of visibility and reputation. So we can look at visibility over time and see how that compares to an average competitor. And we've created a metric here that allows us to understand, for instance, how my average ranking is and how that compares to other companies that are like me, and how many keywords I have, right? When you put together the average ranking and the number of keywords I have in the index, and I track that over time, I can see that, companies grow and visibility gets better, and you can compare that to, in this case, up to 10 competitors, and we can look and find out, how we do versus the competition in our markets. I think from a business owner standpoint, that's a very valuable thing to have, and really gives you an idea of, what good is, right? I'm investing this money. Is it working? Am I getting better versus my competitors? Am I getting more visible? And I can see it right here. And we actually have a lot of detail over on the left as well, which I'll show you in a minute. The other thing, and I talked about this earlier, is when we started the business, we knew that there were certain things that every business owner should do in order to succeed on the internet. And one of those things that you've all heard about, I'm sure, is directory listings, right? So we have directory listings in the cloud in a way that allow us to understand how consistent my directory listings are, whether I'm whether I've got the same address and phone number on all of them, whether I'm in all of them, right? Are they all actually working? And then there's another component to directory listings which is important, and that's reviews. So in this case, I've got a customer with a star rating of 4.6 out of 5. So we know that he's got good review scores out there, and if I'm a business owner, again, I want to see that. I want to know, is this rising? Am I covered there? Do I have to worry about that? Do I have work to do? So that's the thinking behind the dashboard. We also added a piece down here about the words that get used in reviews. So this is a little different than keywords now. Keywords are what bring the traffic to the site, right? How do people search for me, and how do they come to me when they search? This is how are they talking about me afterwards? And we see things like recommend and great, and the kinds of words or the kinds of products that they're using, and things like professional, and that's good, right? If I'm a business owner, I feel good about that, and I know that I've got I'm satisfying my customers. But if I see words in here like there was a particular instance a little over a year ago with a customer who had words like high pressure sales and just unhappy words around the sales process, and that helped him, right? It helped him to understand what he needed to do to kind of target his sales process better and not create those bad review experiences. So we bring that in from that standpoint, right? In the spirit of trying to help everybody understand what's going on and make adjustments as they need to make them. So that's the kind of the overview of the dashboard. We do have up top here a benchmarking thing where we're building these benchmarks, and this is a work in process. But what we're trying to do is to say, okay, if you're a siding company, for instance, and we have hundreds of siding companies on the platform, we want to be able to compare how does a typical siding company do in reviews, or how many how many leads do they typically get, and to give people an idea of where you stand in terms of the averages across your industries. We think that's something that the businesses that we work with really want. And because I mean, I could imagine if you're a roofer in a particular city and you don't talk every day to a lot of other roofers, you may not know whether you're doing well. Like, how should I be doing, right? And so our idea behind this benchmarking, and like I said, we're developing this now, but our idea behind this is to give people an idea of what's normal, right? We've got enough people on this platform now that we really can figure out, across the country, what an average roofer gets for leads, or how many reviews do they typically have, and help people to calibrate their expectations and calibrate their efforts to try to do some of these things that we're asking them to do. So that's what the dashboard is all about. It's not meant to be an in-depth look at anything. It's kind of, okay, how's my business doing online? How are the big buckets of effort that we have here? How are things working? Am I seeing growth over time that I think I should be seeing? And is this generally in the right place? And then we go from there and we get into the details of kind of how everything's working. So when we look at leads, right, we put leads right at the top because we know most of you guys kind of live and breathe on, how are my leads today? So we know everybody's going to want to look at that. And we look at leads from all different standpoints. So there, in most cases on websites, there are 2 or 3 different forms. Customers can come to you on phone calls. Sometimes there are forms that aren't leads, but that bring you, inquiries, reviews, that kind of thing. So we put all of that stuff in here so that we can look at, we call it goal completions, but it's when a customer makes a phone call or when a customer puts in an estimate request, that we would put that in here and show that again over time. So you can see the growth of that seasonally as the season changes and as we go forward with the program and try to grow that. We also have, in many cases, people do, phone tracking with us. When you buy a program with us, when you get on our program, it comes with tracking phone numbers. And the reason we do that is to give people the ability to listen to the phone calls, right? And so this is a tool that we've put in here to try to help people, know how their phone is being answered. As I said, I've been doing this for a long time. I go back to the beginning of this business, and I can tell you that when we have listened to phone calls with most of the businesses that come in the front door with us, they are very often surprised at the kind of phone answering situation that's going on, because they don't typically do that. People don't typically listen to their phone calls. This has been a tool that many people have said to us, hey, really great that I can now understand this, and this is something I need to go fix. So we look at it from that standpoint. We also have pay-per-click, right? So sometimes we have a different phone number on the website for organic traffic versus paid traffic, and we have a person who runs our pay-per-click area called, his name is Brian Seskin, and he comes in here and listens to these phone calls so he can understand the difference between keywords that drive inquiry and keywords that drive leads. So he will actually listen to these phone calls and try to understand what the customers are asking for and which ones are more likely to turn into leads versus which ones just end up in conversations. So we do that on our own. And we know that giving this tool to customers, when we have customers who listen to these phone calls, they generally tell us it's a revelation and a tool that really helps them to understand what's going on in their businesses. So again, you can see over time how things grow. We're at the beginning of March, is why March is very low here. And then this is in real time. You see exactly what's going on from a standing of how many goal completions am I getting, how many forms, how many phone calls, am I getting better, right? And that's typically what customers are thinking when they talk to us is this getting better? Are we getting progress? And this is a way for us to kind of demonstrate that. We bring all of the leads into a thing called Lead Manager. There's a companion phone app that goes with that, an iPhone or a Android app. And so we get all these leads here, and we also send them to the phone. So many of our customers who, we have customers who are literally out in the field working, right? We have handyman. There's a few hundred handymen in here, and they're literally out there doing the work. So when we put it on a phone like that, it allows them to be able to respond to that customer very, very quickly, and we know how important that is. So not only do we have the leads in here so that you can kind of keep track of them and understand what's going on, but you also get an iPhone, prompt every time one comes in, and we want to make sure that response time is as quick as it could possibly be. We also opt these people into receiving emails and print mail, so that in some verticals, what we're doing in here is we're running drip campaigns behind the leads, so we can email those folks and try to raise the response rates when they either don't set or when you don't contact them. Sometimes you have a hard time contacting people. And so we set up these drip campaigns in the back, and this tells us which drip some of these people are on, so that we can understand what kind of contact we've had with them over time. So the feedback on the lead manager has been, I really like getting that stuff. I really like seeing it all in one place and having an idea of, how things are working. And from our standpoint, we know that the set rates are much, much higher when folks respond within 3, 4, 5 minutes. And so we encourage people to use this to be able to do that. This makes things easier. And I see Steven's asking a question in the chat window about how's everyone doing. If anybody has any questions, if you want to kind of stop me here, I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that we've spoken about so far, or happy to go forward either way. Okay, so the next place is traffic, and
Bob, we did have one question come in.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't see that.
All right, so Jennifer asked, do you guys cover all industries, or are there industries you don't cover?
We cover a lot of industries. I wouldn't say it's any industry at all, but our focus is on people who live on leads, right? So if your business is really designed around leads and providing services for customers, chances are that's going to be a fit for us. We're very good at lead generation. We understand how to do it, and we understand how to structure websites in order to do it. So to me, that would be the thing. It's typically not a good fit when customers are just branding. It's when it's just about getting people to know who you are. We're much more about lead generation and generating inquiries.
Hey, Bob, Blake here. A little bit further on Jennifer's point, I just wanted to add that we do specialize for optometrists, and we have many OD customers who we've had a lot of success helping them attract new patients in their area. So definitely something, if you were looking to do for your practice, we'd be happy to explore it a little bit more with you.
Yep. The optometrist piece to me is very similar to lead generation, in that you've got people looking on the internet for kind of a doctor to provide them with services. The way optometrists is a little different than some of our home services customers, is people that actually go to you, which to me in some ways is good, because you've got that branding impact of walk-in traffic at the same time as generating leads online. So it kind of works both ways. So there's the next piece of this is traffic, and again, you can see where with this particular customer, we're coming out of December, and it's more into the season now, January and February. And you can see this kind of gentle rise to the right between organic traffic and direct traffic and referral traffic, and that kind of gives you an idea of where things are headed. But then when you want to get specific, you can look at any one of these. How are we doing with organic? How are we doing with direct? How many clicks are we getting from search, right? This is Webmaster Tools data that comes in from Google that tells us what queries people are using. Here's how people are searching for you. How many clicks are we getting from that? What's our average position on some of those words? And able to track a lot of words in one place. You can see we've got pages and pages and pages of words here. So it gives us an idea of which words are generating traffic to the site and how's all that going. We also do the same thing on pages. So just like, we want to know which words are showing up in which position, we want to see what pages are showing up and how over time, how is that progressing. So we look at pages, and we also look at the landing pages, and we pay a lot of attention to things like bounce rate and click-through rate, because we know that impacts the ranking of those pages. And so when people are searching organically, where are they landing, and how much traffic is that generating? And then there's another level of this, which is really something that came about from the way I look at this traffic, because we want to know whether a particular, I want to look at it locally, right? So, for instance, if you're an optometrist in Boston, I want to know what the organic traffic is looking like from Massachusetts. I don't much care about any organic traffic that you're getting from Oklahoma. So I do this kind of, state by state breakout, and I look at the local organic traffic for a particular place, depending on where you are. This particular customer happens to be in Delaware, and so he's got, we've got Delaware organic in Pennsylvania, and then Virginia this is Surefire looking at his website as well, either signing in, doing things, or pinging the website for information or whatever. So Delaware and Pennsylvania organic is what we're concerned about here, and this allows us to take a look at that in isolation from traffic that really doesn't matter to us. So we built this kind of traffic tab so we can understand where it's coming from, and we can make adjustments to the program and adjustments to the content to be able to grow this piece of it and ultimately, get him more leads. We spoke about visibility earlier, and visibility to us is the combination between how many keywords you have ranking and where those keywords rank. And in this case, this is about keywords that rank in the top 30 positions. So if you have a keyword that's ranking number 1, you get 30 points for that. If you have a keyword that's ranking number 30, you get 1 point for that. And when you add all of that up and you get an index, and you do the same thing for your competitors, then you can really understand how you're doing versus these competitors, right? And so there's 2 ways to grow your index. You can either have more keywords ranking in the top 30, or you can have the keywords that are ranking rank higher. And so we see, if you compare that kind of approach with any one competitor or all of your competitors, then you can understand kind of how you're doing versus them. And so that's the spirit behind this. And typically what we see is, when we look at this over time, you get this kind of gentle rise to the right. There's usually, Google does not change things dramatically. Excuse me. You don't see, spikes in visibility, because it's an index across a lot of keywords. So we tend to see this over months and years kind of rise, right? And companies that were much less visible 12 months ago, you can kind of look at them and say, okay, here's where we are, right? We're growing, and things are going well. And then we also look at average competitor score to make sure that what's going on in the marketplace we're addressing, and that we're able to kind of, keep the customers ranking well versus their competitors. So, and then, for the people who really want to get into the detail, you can look at individual keyword rankings by search engine. And we also have a Google local view for each different market. So if you're in, Omaha City or wherever, you can look at how do you look in Google for that place, which is very often different than how you look at Google across, a national view. So this kind of thing is for the people who really want to get deep into it, and it allows us. We certainly have people that go in here and look at this kind of stuff, and it allows us to target things like content production and blogs and that kind of thing. Everybody hears, we always hear a lot about social. Social is important. We want to try to understand what's going on in the social sphere. It's not typically a big time lead generation thing. It's more about it's traffic. It's creating a personality for your business. It's presence among a very targeted demographic of customers that you can speak to. So we bring it in here. We've got, in this case, a couple of different Facebook pages for this customer, because he's got multiple locations, and you can see the traffic that comes from that, and the differences in how, when people like you, how that's going. Some customers have more aggressive social programs than others, so it's not always a very steady kind of a thing. Social tends to be the cherry on top rather than the core of the program. That this allows us to look at a piece of the whole thing. Directory listings, and we talked about this earlier, it's a very key piece of how customers get traffic on the internet, how you rank, how Google views the website. And so it's very important that this NAP record, name, address, and phone number for a company, be the same across all of these directories. And in this case, it's 128 directories because this customer has 2 locations times we do a bunch of directories for each one. So these are all the directories that happen, and because of the way we do this, where we're leveraging it into what we call an API, there's a connection to all of these right here. Because of the way we do this record is exactly the same across all of these directories. That's a big deal for Google and really helps you to rank better and to get additional traffic. And it's also links from those things, which is obviously a good thing too. So the directory listings are managed through here. When we want to make changes to them, we do that right here. You don't have to go signing into 75 different directories to make changes. You do it here. You can do things like change your address, right? You can change your welcome message. You can change your hours, right? People change, you have seasonal hours. We do that right here. You don't have to go signing into all of these things. And when you do that, it just propagates out to all of them, and you're kind of guaranteed to be in the right place with that, so you don't have to worry about it. This is a very different scenario than trying to manage this on your own and just trying to chase all of this. You'd have a big thick book full of passwords, and it's impossible to manage. So we do it all through here on one password, and you have a lot of flexibility with how this goes. Things like categories are very important. Different kinds of ways that all of these listings and directories work in helping you show up for different things that you care about. So directories is an important piece, and we definitely have it in here. The kind of an adjunct or a piece of directories is reputation. Many directories that we have here have a component of them where they take a review. And we know Google cares about these reviews a lot, and they care about your review score, and we have to manage that. So we manage that for the 2 different locations in this case, right through here. We worry about review score, and we also take a look at things like when the reviews come in, we want to be able to reply to them, right? And again, you don't want to have to go signing into these things because you forget your password, and it's just, you have to reclaim the thing. It's a pain in the neck. So it's all right here, and we're able to reply to these things right in here. You simply put your reply here and submit, and it goes directly to that place and attaches itself to that that review on that directory in real time. So I get the question a lot: how many of my directories, or how many of my reviews do I need to reply to? And the answer that we operate on here is 100%. We want to give people the tools to be able to easily do this, so that even the good ones, right? Typically people don't respond to the good ones. They only worry about the bad ones. We find that the people who respond to all of them do better, right? It's something that Google measures. It's something that the directories measure, and your engagement in that is very, very important. So we make it easy here so that it's something that you can do. Typically a customer of ours will assign somebody within the organization to come in here and look at these things periodically and make sure that if there's a bad one, that you put in there kind of the reasons why and try to get a resolution to it. And if it's a good one, that you simply going in and saying, thank you, we appreciate the business, and we hope to be able to serve you again in the future. So that's the directory piece. We've made it very easy, and we think that it's the kind of thing that really we want everybody to be working with. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is publishing content. And you know, we get this question a lot when folks are coming to us, and you know, they say, well, how often should I post to my blog, or how often should I post to social media? And we know that the reason why they're asking that is because it's not easy, right? You got to go signing into these things. You got to think about what you're going to write. If I've got a post that I want to put on Facebook, Twitter, Google My Business, and I want to have all of that go, I've got to rewrite that post because all of these things take a different number of words, and they have to be reformatted, and it's not easy. So we built this publishing content, frankly, for us, because we wanted to be able to do all of this publishing work on behalf of our clients, and then now it exists for us and for customers to work on these websites. So you can publish to the web, right? There's a direct connection from here to your blog, and you can publish. You know, you simply put in where do you want it to go? This one, you know, to WordPress, and you fill in the content that you want to type. You fill in the schedule. Down the bottom here, there's a schedule, and you can literally schedule it to show up on the blog at a certain date and time. And you schedule that for the future, or you can make it, you know, make it show up right away. You can also do things like send for approval. So if you've got multiple people in the company that might have to look at something, you can send it to them, let them take a look, right? They approve it, or they can push it live, and all of that happens right through here, right? We do the same thing with social. So on published content here, if I want to go to social media, I can literally pick all of these things, and I can have the same post on the same schedule go to, you know, 3, 4, 5 different places all at once. And as I talked about earlier, all of these things have different criteria, right? That Twitter, we know, has you know, 144 characters, right? The 140 characters. WordPress can obviously publish whatever you want. Facebook, you know, there's a size to that. You don't want to write a book for Facebook. And what happens in here is when you publish this stuff, the system adjusts the post to fit the media that you're trying to publish to. So you can kind of put it in once, let it go. The system will make the adjustment, schedule it for those places, and it will land in the places where you want it to land on the schedule that you appointed it for. So we find that not only is this easy for us, because we publish about 1,400 blogs a month for our clients, but we encourage clients when they have things to publish that they come in here and do that too. We think it's important to get local content on websites. So for instance, you know, you just sponsored the Little League team for the spring, and you want to let everybody know about that. That's a really good thing to put out on social media. And so we encourage people to come in here and do that as well. We have account managers and coaches who will tell you how to do it, help you do it, teach you how to do it, and then certainly encourage you to do it. So between the social and the blogging, and you've got that kind of connection into your website, and now you can see that as you do more of that, and as you do certain kinds of that, you can then look at, and this is where the structured data comes in, you can then look at, well, how did that impact my traffic? You know, did my organic traffic around a certain keyword change, or did I, you know, have I seen overall a lift from this blogging and social media effort that I've been undertaking for the last 6 months? Is my traffic any better today than it was 6 months ago? And you've got the ability in here, because we structured this data all in the same way and bring it all in one place on one sign-in with a common date range, that I can really look at those kinds of impacts and really understand, you know, what's the value of doing these things for me? Am I doing them in a way that's gonna grow the business? So that's the cloud. That's kind of a you know, half-hour demo or so, and an idea of what we've got in here. There's certainly a lot more to talk about if we ever wanted to you know, really get deep with this kind of thing. But we wanted to give you an overview of what's here and how it works, and why we think it's important when you're trying to run a company and you're trying to understand what your online presence looks like. We wanted to kind of give it in a way that allows you to kind of manage this whole thing easily and effectively, without trying to, you know, do all of this in 38 different places. So that's the demo. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Bob. And everyone, please make sure to put all your questions into that chat box that should be on the right-hand side of your screen. We're going to try to go ahead and answer all of these questions within the time limit today. I know we have about 20 more minutes. Before we start going through the handful of questions that we already have, I also want to make sure everyone's aware of the opportunity to schedule a one-on-one call with one of Surefire Local's digital marketing consultants. The poll's now open, and we're going to be scheduling these calls for Tuesday, March 6th, and for Thursday, March 8th, both next week. And you also have the option to just let us know a time that works for you, and we can reach out to help get that scheduled. And you know, the purpose of these calls is we really want to let our consultants kind of dig in and discuss your specific situation in detail, and to really see if the Surefire Local Marketing Cloud could be the right solution for your digital marketing needs. So please take advantage of that, and I'll get started on some of these additional questions for Bob right now. And Bob, the first one that we had came from Angie, and she was letting us know that as far as the leads go, you know, they have an office that's open from, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with someone answering the phone all day. And so is lead management emails, like, are those also going to be sent to the owner? Are those going to be sent when a phone call comes in? Or, would you mind explaining in a little bit more detail how that process works?
Yeah, so whenever that happens, whenever a phone call happens or whenever a form submission happens, then that notification would go out. So if you're after hours and you're not in the office, as long as you have the mobile app on your phone and you set yourself up, and we would help you do that, set yourself up as one of the recipients of that, then you would get that notification. It's a very good question, because after hours, right, you still want to try to meet that 5-minute criteria. You still want to answer those people quickly. So we think the lead manager is a good way to kind of do that.
Definitely. And good question, Angie. And another question we got from Lynn is, in the traffic portion of the Marketing Cloud, can you sort leads down to the specific zip code, or what kind of options do they have to see the geography from where these leads are coming from?
Well, if you look at, and I'm going to show you here on, where is it? So if I go to here, right, I can see goal completions over here and where they're coming from. So you can see there's, in Delaware, for instance, 10 goal completions from Delaware, Google Organic. Am I visible now? Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, you're visible now. Sorry, we still have the poll up, but it's clear now.
Okay. And then, so I can look at each individual state and what kind of traffic is bringing that traffic, right? What kind of, is it organic or is it direct or whatever? And then I can see how the leads break out over here. So the answer is yes. I can know, down to the state level. If you wanted to see, down to the city level, that exists in Google Analytics. We didn't break it in here, or we didn't bring it in here because it causes the report to be many, many pages. But it definitely is gettable if you want to get that.
Okay, perfect. And then another a good question here coming from Brian. And he's saying, could we see how you update an online directory? He'd really like to see just adding that content to the online directories again, if you don't mind, just briefly walking us through that one more time.
Sure. So, for instance, this is the, in this particular company, this is the Philadelphia Pike address, right? So if I go here, and if I want to make an adjustment to, for instance, the business description, I simply go in, I make my change here, and then there's a save button somewhere on here, submit button down here, and that change would become live. If I want to change photos or add photos, I do that here. Right, I go find them on my computer, upload them, and then again, submit. If I want to change my hours, I would go in here. Let's say I'm closed on Monday now. I didn't used to be. I simply change it to closed and then press the submit button, and that would go. And we would see that there's 74 directories that are impacted by this. We would see that almost immediately. We've seen, where you might have 10-second delay, and they show up immediately. There's a very quick injection of that content into those directories, through the service that we're using.
Perfect. And would you mind showing us one more time just a page where we have each individual directory listed out?
Sure. So let me go back. These are the directories here. There are 74 of them, and we know there's been a lot of research done about which directories matter. Google will tell you that they have 50, but they won't tell you which ones. And we know there's been a lot of testing around what directories there are, and how they work, and what happens when you manage them. And we have a very high confidence that the 50 that Google care about are on this list, right? There's no way to, like, Google doesn't give you the list, but we have a very high confidence that they're here.
Perfect. Thank you. And one more question we had come in from Jennifer, a really good question here. She's asking, can we link to web platforms that aren't built out in WordPress? And then a follow-up question to that, are we able to link to other CRM systems, think things like, Salesforce, AccuLinks, QuickBooks, things like that?
Yes. So I'll handle the second one of those first. We have a lot of experience linking to MarketShop. We have linking to Salesforce is very straightforward. There's a connection to QuickBooks. In some of our clients, we have what we call true ROI reporting on pay-per-click, and I'll show you campaign data down here. So this customer doesn't happen to be a pay-per-click customer, but we report that out by month, and we can actually add a column over here for sales and really report true ROI by making that QuickBook connection. And it's very simple to do in here. So all of that exists. If we get a question about a specific CRM, we handle those individually. Most of them are some kind of Salesforce based, and it's usually not a very difficult thing to do. So integration is definitely doable here. What was the other part of that question, Blake?
Yeah, the other part was, are we able to link up to websites that aren't in WordPress?
Yeah, we're set up to do WordPress right now. We build, we have thousands of websites that we've built, and we build everything in WordPress. So we prefer WordPress here. It's guaranteed that if you have a WordPress site, we'll be able to connect it up. If you don't have a WordPress site, it's worth looking at. I can't commit to that because we have to take a look at the particular situation that we've got, but chances are it's something that we're going to be able to work with.
Perfect. And one other thing, Bob, it was Jennifer who had asked about the integrations, and I know earlier she had asked a question specific to eye care. So just to make sure we're giving the best information, would you mind just briefly speaking to how we can work with, for an optometrist practice, work with like e-commerce for selling contacts online, integrate with platforms so that patients can, go in and select their own schedule off a calendar? Can you speak to kind of the relationship we have with RODs and some of their third-party customer resources?
So there are these third-party integrations around setting an appointment, and we handle those individually, but they're very straightforward. We have had no problems doing that. In terms of we have to keep patient data out of anything that we transmit, so that we make sure that we do that. But we have a lot of ODs on the system, and there's a lot of different integrations going on. So we kind of handle that as we need to. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that was perfect. And so it looks like we have run out of questions from the audience. If anybody else, if anything does pop up, please don't hesitate to add that in, and we'll try to answer it while we still have time. I also wanted to bring up, as I had mentioned earlier, we're going to have the special prize up for grabs today. We're offering a free Google Home Mini, as well as the first month's worth of service, Surefire Local, for free on us if you're the first person to answer this question correctly. And so while we're putting this question in the chat box, just in case everyone can't see it, but don't forget, you're going to have to submit your answer using the question box in your webinar control panel on the right side of your screen. And so, without further ado, the question that we'd like to ask is, what is one feature of the cloud you could use to share a special offer across the web for storm damage repair? And we'll give you all a few moments to answer that. Okay, thank you everybody for participating, and a drum roll please. Today's lucky winner is going to be Lynn Monson. Congratulations, Lynn, and she had the correct answer of our directory listing. So Lynn, if you could please email me, Blake Rivers, I am at marketing@surefirelocal.com, and we'll go ahead and put that email address into the chat box just to make sure everyone can see it. Please go ahead and just send over your full name, mailing address, and the best time to give you a call about setting up an appointment to get moving on your Surefire services. And thank you all so much again for joining us, and a huge thanks to Bob Sheehan and everyone for taking out the time today to speak with us.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for spending so much time with us. And if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
And of course, always feel free to visit us at surefirelocal.com. Everyone take care, enjoy the rest of the day, and have a nice weekend.